Today we got a Honda B5SA. I'm going to put an LS kit, which is a kit with clutches, filter, and a torque converter in this. Alright, so on this unit here, here's a sleeve that goes in here. It's very hard to get out, and I don't normally take these out unless I just think there's a problem with this, because it's such a pain to get out. Now what I will do is there's a hold down bolt and a plate that holds the bearing, keeps it from walking out of the case. What I'll do is I'll take that loose and I'll flip this case over, and when I put it in cleaner, it gets really hot, and the vibration from the machine, sometimes the bearing will fall out, and if it will, then I'll change this. Sometimes you can get the bearing to move, sometimes you can't. Now I'm going to show you our stupid saying of the day. These are our wonders for today. And I disagree. You can't never be perfect. No matter how much you try, you're never going to be perfect. Alright. Now I'll show you what I do to get these out of there. Sometimes I can get them out with a little slide hammer. Other times I can get them out with a baby heel bar. And this side's going to go up. You can see the groove. It's closest to this end. That's the end that's going to go up. Let's see if we can get this kind of back down in there, and I'll show you what I do. I do this, it's better to do it while it's hot. With this baby heel bar, and I'll get on that groove back here, and I'll pry up a little bit. I'll get it where it starts to move, and I'll get it. There's you can see right in here where the bearing and that collar meet. I stick it in there, and I get a screwdriver right here, and I use that as leverage, and it'll usually pop the other side up, and I just keep working it back and forth, and eventually it comes out. Sometimes. Now I'll be back. I gotta get my parts out the cooker. Well, we can put the seals in. Then we'll do it. Now this bearing right here likes to walk out when you got it in the cleaner. Like I said, all this is better to do it while it's hot. Make sure that bearing goes back in. Where's my center punch? I'm losing everything today. Yeah. See if my old one still works. We're going to get in there right above the bearing. We're going to give some punch marks, and that'll help keep that bearing from floating out. Sonex makes a little shim that you can put on the end of the torque converter, and that'll help keep that bearing pushed back also. On your front seals, any seal actually, especially on a Honda, because the difference between a Honda and Acura, the engines turn opposite directions, and if you put the wrong seal in, it's going to leak. So you look at the arrows on your seal, make sure that the new one is facing the same direction. You put one in its opposite directions, it will leak. Put our lever seal in.
Hey, Tom, on that board it's...
Alright, put our magnet in. Goes in with the little fingers up. You just get in here with the pocket screwdriver and pop it up. Our counter shaft bearing, this notched end goes up. Well, my separator plate's going to come across here and hold that in. It's going to hold that in. Alright, here's our little keeper. You can go up in the groove of that bearing there. And then we got our bolt with our locking tab on it. And some of these kits, I give you a new one. Let's see if we got one. No, this kit did not give new ones. So that's okay. They normally only bend up one tab, so we can just bend the other one up. Let's see, I don't think we're quite down all the way. And we just bend our locking tab up. Got our bearing and our shim, our bearing, our race, and our shim that goes for the differential over here. They usually just fall in and out. Dowel pin and our main pump gear, pump drive gear, guide pin, our inner pump gear. The ID mark's going to go down. And this little pin right here is going to fall out on you. That holds the manual valve. Manual valve faces that way. Pay close attention to this area right in here where the pump gear rides. Make sure it's not scored all up. Not very common, but I have seen a few. Make sure all of our valves are free. We got another 2 check balls. I think they're 213 on that diameter. 217. One goes here, one goes down here. You want to pay close attention to your CPC valves. Find me, since this is not a Trans-Tech kit. Usually in a Trans-Tech kit you'll get a piece of paper that tells you what you got. So let me dig up a piece of paper for this one so I know which valves I'm looking at. There's a dowel pin, separator plate, and a reverse servo. It's a pretty thick O-ring that goes on there. No valves in this other than accumulators. This goes against detent over here. I don't have the paperwork on this, so I don't know which ones are the exact CPC valves. We're just going to have to make sure everything's nice and free. These usually are. These I don't normally have problems with. On our bolts here, I'm going to measure each one because it's easy to get all this stuff screwed up. 2-inch 398, 2-inch 403. 1-inch 192, 2-inch 397, 2-inch 405, 2-inch 389. 2-inch 982 goes up back over here. Two-inch 986. And back in here. 2-inch 401. 2-inch 386, 2-inch 991, 2-inch 885 or 985, and we got our accumulators here. Spring is a free height 1-inch 164, outside diameter 563, coil diameter 96. This accumulator here. outside spring, free height of 1 inch 930, outside diameter 721, coil diameters 93. The inner spring, free height of 236, outside 463, coil diameter 95. This one here, our spring height, 1 inch 602, outside is 644, coil is 121, and you got this bracket here. This long leg goes over here. Bolts are 10 millimeters and inch 404 on both of them. And tighten this down. Got this check valve that goes in this side down, and our spring has a free height of inch 52 thousandths, outside of 253, and a spring diameter of 33 thousandths. The dowel pin, and the dowel pin, your separator plate, you got to looking. I think this one here might be a CPC valve, but it's a little strong for CPC. I don't think this unit has any CPC valves. Normally in a Transtech kit, on the O-ring that comes on here, they give you two different ones, and I always put the colored one with the bigger, fits tighter, and I'm not going to be able to do that on this one. There's a pin here, goes in there. And our valves are nice and free. Our body on. We'll start with our bolts. 2" 800 on this one. On that one. 2" 402. 402. 2" 800 in the middle. 2" 400 on the end. 2" 400 on this end. 2" 800. And 1" 806 up here. Up there. Little accumulator. Our spring out free height is 1" 144, outside 559, coil diameter 96. That one there. Outside spring 1" 914, outside 721, coils 94, inside free length of 1" 233, outside of 463, coil is 98. And you got this bracket, the tall end faces the short. You got 2 10s. Length are 1" 398. Everybody and their brother makes valves for this tranny, and my advice is don't put them in this unit. I have not had good success, and a buddy of mine that has tried all of them out has had trouble. Some of them had chronic leaks out the front, and he swapped back to the original valves, and the problem went away. He couldn't get rid of it. So I don't know what's up, but my advice is don't put them in these units. Alright, got our filters gonna go on. Alright, our bolts. Our short one. You can't screw up the filter bolts, but I'll give you the lengths anyway. 1" 808 to the end one here, and 4" 758 on the long one. Here we got these 2 tubes, and this is the updated style. The non-updated style only had 1 bracket holding these in.
Can I ask one more question? So I moved the shifter.
3" 567 on this bolt. Before what would happen is before they updated this and they have a bracket to hold each one down, is it would push up on this and it would break the end of this tube. So that's a very common problem on these things. Definitely want to put the updated tubes in it. And sometimes it can be very hard to find them. Alright, yeah, we'll put our diff in. And then we got our manual valve, or our linkage. Bring our manual valve up. Put that on there. And we got this oil slinger. Get you the measurements on these two bolts. The long one is 2" 987. The other is 2" 407. Put the spring on the detent, and then we need to move this into the park position. Now we're done with this part of it. We'll go on to our drums. This shaft here, there is no point in disassembling it beyond this point unless you got some damaged gears, and I've never seen any, not yet, so I'll just leave that together. We're going to start with our main shaft. A lot of times I will not replace these sealing rings, especially if I don't get like a Trans-Tech kit. The reason being is they fit too big, and this thing is a snot to set down in there. So unless they look really bad, I don't replace them. These look pretty good. O-rings on here. Come on. What I do is I mark my drum for one of them, put an X on it. That just allows me to put all the stuff in the cleaner and clean it. You can get really screwed up on these Hondas really quick, so unless you're really comfortable totally disassembling it like that, I wouldn't do it. I would do it step by step, you know, like take this side of the drum out, put this side of the drum back together, and turn it over and do the other side. So, like I said, I put an X on one side of the drum. I put it on the retainer, and I put it on the piston. And I put it on the steel pressure plate that's on this side, so I know which ones go where. Now also, these little flapper valves, they're pretty stiff, but you want to make sure there's no debris up inside that little bleed hole, and these are returning all the way. You can put some fluid up on there and make sure that that stays full, doesn't just drain out. Should have pressure to relieve that. Now on your snap rings, it's really kind of hard to tell sometimes, but a lot of times there's a taper, and it'll be pointed up, or it'll be narrow at one end and wide at the other. The narrowest end you want pointed up. On this one, it has these little wavy wire cushions, and they're all the same, so you can't screw that up. Some of these have dish plates, and you want them facing the way that they were facing. Some face up, some face down. Alright, this one here on this side without the splines, steels are 76 thousandths, clutches are 74. Are the same. Alright. Make sure all these deals are 76. Pressure plate is 87, and our snap ring 68. Same, taper the tips up. Put our little wire in there again. I guess I'll measure these. And 77, so basically the same. 76. Clutches are the same. And our pressure plate is 92, and our snap ring is 69. Alright, looking good there. Alright, this is what we got. We got flat bearing, cage bearing, flat bearing, and race. That's going to sit with the race on top. And lube this all up. Put our drum on with the splines at the top. And we're all the way down. This end, we got a flat bearing, one cage bearing. Just sit on there like that. This gear is going to go on top. This bearing is going to sit on top. And this drum again, I got an X. We got the O-ring on the inside here. And this one has balance pistons, a return spring, same taper of the tips of the snap ring up. There's a little wire again, and these steels 61. Pressure plate is 122, and our snap ring is 67. I'm using gold trans gel for lubing up all the O-rings. Balance piston. Taper the tips up. Wire has quite a bit more wave to it than the others did. Our steels 77, and our clutches are now square cut, which are the same. Should all be the same. Pressure plate 92, snap ring 67, that's ready to go. I'm going to go ahead and put our other drum together. This is on the back side of this. I'll just be done with the drums. Balance piston, taper the tips up. Alright, got a very heavy wave to the ring again, and our steels are the same, 75. Pressure plate 105, our snap ring 67. Alright, we got 2 O-rings on this end. We got the sealing rings down here. I'm not going to change those. Those especially. You really run the risk of breaking one on that one right there. Okay. Now, we got a flat bearing, cage bearing, flat bearing, and race. I'm gonna put this on. The flat bearing's gonna go on first. And cage bearing, our gear, and our flat bearing, and our race. I'm gonna lube that up. And our drum's gonna go down. We're all the way down. And our sleeve, our flat bearing. Flat bearing, cage bearing, our gear, flat bearing, our gear is going to go on top, and use our arbor press to press this down. And press this bearing on, the snapper and groove goes towards the top, and this dished washer sits on top of that. And you can put the nut on and tighten it now if you want to. The dish of the nut faces down. It's a left-handed nut, and it'll have an arrow on the top of it. I'm going to go ahead and tighten this down since I already screwed it all the way down. You can put it in and tighten it up later. And it's 1 5/16". And then there's a little spot right here where you can stake it. I'm going to stake it in. Then on the back, got a flat bearing, cage bearing. Flat bearing is going to fit over the cage bearing. This gear is going to sit on there. And we got another flat bearing and washer. I lube the crap out of that. And our drum. It's on top. So our snapper and groove is open. And we got this snapper ring, and we're going to put the taper of the tips up or out. See if I can do this sideways. Fun begins because we got to stack all three of these shafts in at the same time, and that shaft sits up there like that, and then the input shaft sits on there like so. So I gotta have another person. I'm going to bring the tranny down here and we can get to it. Part here, we got a cage bearing. This gear faces up. This bearing surface faces up. Reverse gear, or slider, this side faces down, this side faces up. This goes over the servo. Cage bearing, and the gear sits on top. Got your dowel pins for your case. Sometimes they get stuck in the case like this one. This other one over here is stuck in the other case. Sometimes these are all the same, sometimes they're not. So you need to keep track of where they came out of. This back up. I got this keeper. Hooked end goes on top. End goes on top, and it's got a shoulder bolt. Get this around here where I can get to it. Sit here and fight it. Bend that locking tab over. Okay, you don't need to take the reverse idler out of the case. You can stay in there. And you don't need to take this gear off. It can stay in there. You have to spread this snap ring apart when it starts going down, getting close, to let that bearing on the shaft go in. This bearing right here. On your dowel pins, if they don't come out, go ahead and polish them with some emery cloth. And then we'll go over here and start with our tubes. These two tubes up in the front. Let me get it. These two tubes are the same, and they measure 7 3/4, and then this one over here is about 8 5/8. Once I get the case half on and the bolts in the proper position, I'll measure the bolts and let you know what they're supposed to do. When you're coming down, you have to turn that reverse idler to lock it. See if you can see. Yeah, it goes in this area, so you're going to have to turn it to where these two gears mesh in with it. Then on the differential, you get the shim that goes in the case first. And you got this slinger, then your race. Shifter has to be in park. Come on, baby. Do it this way. Put these two in later. Lined up on my gasket. Far. Get the snap ring. Snap rings in place. gasket so you can get it. Alright. And we're going to start from this corner right here. We're going to work our way around in a clockwise motion. So this bolt is 2 inches 7/26. This one 1 inch 9/37. Same. Four inch 277. Inch 287. 3 inches 889. 4 inches 279. 2 inches 721. Same. Same. 3 inches 891. 4 inches 279. 3 inches 908. Same. Same. 3 inches 900. Same. Two inches 715. 1 inch 940. Alright, all your case bolts are 14s. Tubes back in before I forget. Alright. Go ahead and put that in. wiring harness. $10mm, and that bolt is inch 6/13. The reason I'm giving you all this is because it's easy to get screwed up on this, especially if somebody sends you a unit. It's in a box. Now we got the yellow wire, blue wire, red wire, orange wire, green wire. I've gotten these sent to me in not just this unit, but any Honda that you get sent to you in a box. It can be a nightmare to get back together and try to get all the stuff in the right spot, because the information is pretty scarce out there. So anytime you have the units that have this solenoids like this, they're not always a double wire on the black, sometimes it's single wire, and I've seen them plugged in wrong. Black connectors go to black solenoids, brown connectors go to brown solenoids. That's one way to not screw it up. Get these in the right spot, and then we'll measure them. Okay, we're going to start in this corner. Go clockwise again. Inch 411. Inch 405. Inch 982, inch 4 should be the same. Yep, same. 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 Inch 407. These should all be the same. They're all the same. 10mm on that. Yeah. I think without having to do a bunch of maneuvering, I think you can see enough that you might get the gist of what you need to do here. You got this transfer gear that goes on this. This park gear can go on here. Got these dish washers that go on each one. The dish, you want the dish down. One's left-handed, one's right-handed. If I remember right, this is the right-handed one. Yes. The left-handed one has an arrow on the top of it again. Same size as that other one. once you get it tight, you should be able to hold this shaft and turn the counter shaft, and it should turn freely. If it doesn't turn, you dropped a clutch or something like that. So go back, you have to open the unit back up. Dropped a bearing or a clutch, stake them in place. You got this tube, it drops down in the center of this one up here. You got this tube, goes right there. And on the park, you got this spring. It's going to loop on the shaft so that you got tension pulling back. You got your actuator. It's going to sit in there just like that. And you're going to put tension on the actuator just like that. And you got another keeper and a shoulder bolt. The keeper is going to sit in there just like that. You have to put some tension on it to start the bolt. Bend the keeper over. Now you can move your park actuator out apart. You have this pivot pin. The spring sits on top of it, goes in that hole, and then the actuator is going to sit in there like that, and the spring's going to sit on the front side and put tension back. And you got this pin that keeps it from coming back too far. Got a gasket goes on. And you got some O-rings that are a little bit bigger than some of the other ones, and are a little bit fatter. You go on the tubes, the feed tubes. 3 of them. Go ahead and pull your lever seal out. Leave it out for right now. There's O-rings down inside here.
Hey Tom.
Right.
So on my truck, for like the longest time, in second gear, it would shift like hard. It wouldn't. Remember I had you take off that Corvette servo off, or I had him take off the Corvette servo off of it.
Alright, so you got a large one and a small one. Put your O-ring down inside. And this may not go well because this is like a Toledo kit, and I don't like Toledo O-rings. They're never the right size. Let's see if it'll stay down in there long enough. Get this in there. Alright, then you put the O-ring on your feed pipe. Oop, gotta take the old one off. It's a little bit on the fat side. Alright, let's get this thinner one. And shove that up in there. And go ahead and line these up with the notches down in there. And put the taper of your snap ring, the tips of your snap ring up. And you want that opening over in the side too. Different pair of snap ring pliers. It's a little bit too big. Make sure we're all the way in that groove. Small one, do the same thing, put the O-ring down in the case. It's got a bigger tube, so it takes a larger O-ring. Same thing, we're going to put these down in that groove down there. Same way, you want the taper of your tips up. You want the opening away from an opening. You want it solid around here. Might even want to move this over just a little bit more. Somewhere in there. That feed tube is going to go in the last one. This feed tube's going to go in here, and your link is going to come out up here. This one should go in. This one over here is the only one we skip. There's another bolt. Okay. We skip this bolt right over here, because the cover that goes over the neutral switch, that bolt goes in there. We're going to start right here, work our way around clockwise again, inch 200, same, This one's bigger, got a shoulder on it, fatter. Inch 420. This one's same, fat, with shoulder. Inch 733. Same, fat, same length. Now we're back to the skinny ones again. Inch 609. Same. Inch 997. Inch 618. Inch 983. And inch 612. Got this one up here. Is inch 987. And then we got our linkage seal. Goes in with this end facing down. I just lube the crap out of them and get it started on there, and then just push it in with the pocket screwdriver. And if need be, you can use a little socket to drive it down a little bit further. Alright. And our neutral switch goes on. Let's line it back up exactly where it was. We got this really short tin that goes up here on the bracket. And you got these bolts with this washer on it that go on the, no, it goes on the cover. Sorry, you got these two tins. And I just line it back up where the marks were on the bolts, on the neutral switch. And they do make a special tool for it. Cover goes on, and then you got this really long case bolt that goes over there where we left one out. It's 2 inches 333. And these other two are like this, and they're an inch 148. I believe they're both the same. Yes. This gasket goes on here. You got these feed pipes, and they got screens in the bottom of them. Make sure that they're free. They have no debris in them. These O-rings look pretty small. Some of them are right. I think the top one I'm going to end up using the O-rings over. They're just not quite fat enough. I got enough to do this one. And we got our solenoid, dual linear solenoids, and the bolts. There's 6 of them. They're inch 197. And we've got our cooler tube. We've already changed the O-ring on that. And we got a short tin up at the down at the bottom, and we got this tin on the top up here. We got this gasket here, and it only fits one way. And let me get this right. There we go. No, that ain't right. Yeah, it is. It's just like that. Got this little passageway right here. It's got to line up. Yeah.
Y la desarma, mira, pues, esto es una condición. ¿Sabes por qué no le puede dar el precio exacto? Porque mira, no lo está. Aquí la G la saca, la desarma y aquí la construye.
And we got these two tubes again. We got the screens in the bottom. Make sure that they are free. And then this is just a tube to squirt oil up into the top, up into here. And like I said, I don't like the O-rings that are in the kit for this one. I'm a little too small. I'll just reuse the old ones. Four bolts, they're all the same. Inch 198. Filler cap, vent cap. You got two pressure sensors on this, and I mark one of them with an X. And you got these crush washers that go on the back. If you don't get these in the kit, you're going to have to flat file them or they will leak. So one goes up here, and goes right down there. And they have on the back of these, this one's flat and some are stepped and they're color coded, and like there may be a blue non-stepped and there may be a blue stepped, and they're different pressures, so you got to make sure that whatever pressure you take off is getting back on, because they're not always the same color when you order replacements. But as long as they're the same pressure, you're good to go. speed sensors. One's short. The short one goes back here. Long one goes up here, and it's got a shim that goes on the back of it. And a little short bolt goes in there. This O-ring they give you in the kit goes on the torque converter. Just make sure it's on the hub when you order yours. You get it from whoever you get it from. Should turn free, no noise, nothing dragging. And that's it for this one.